Hi, this is Michael Rubin, and we've been working on the D major scale. And, in the past when I've shown you the C, G, and the D major scale, when we were looking for bends or overblow notes, I would kind of spoon feed you through the process, through the logic of finding where those bends and overblows are. And what I'm hoping is by now you understand the logic. So in the future, I'm just going to show you where the notes are in the scale and then talk about what it means to you while playing. So if you are still struggling with finding bent notes or finding overblow notes, I recommend you go back to my videos on bending and overblows and study up on the logic until you can figure it out. And if you really appreciated me going through the logic, send me some comments and I'll make a choice depending on how many comments I get. But personally, I think I'd rather move on. One thing I'm noticing, and I don't know if it has anything to do with spoon feeding you through the logic, is my popularity on YouTube, the amount of hits I'm getting, has dropped way down since I started the D major scale. So I don't know if you guys are just sick of scales. Well, I'm going to continue with a lot of scales, but we're going to get into more interesting bluesier scales and then minor scales, because in my opinion understanding scales is a big part of understanding how to choose good notes. But hopefully, part of what's part of why the popularity has dropped is because I'm leading you through the logic of finding bends and overblows, and most of you already know how to do that, and it just feels like too much time is being spent on that issue. So hopefully I'm on the right track, and if you know a friend that you think can use meat and potatoes, please tell them about it. So let's see. Finishing up the D major scale, the final octave. 8 draw is D, 8 blow is E, 9 single bend is F sharp, 9 blow is G, 10 draw is A, 10 single bend is B, and 10 overdraw is C sharp. So first off, good news. If you can bend an overblow, everything's there. Second off, tough news. For most beginning harmonica players or even intermediate harmonica players, high note blow bends are hard. For advanced harmonica players, overdraws, especially 10 overdraw on a C harp, is hard. Personally, I have a much easier time overdrawing on lower pitched harps because the higher notes are lower in pitch and therefore longer reeds and easier to manipulate. So for me, to do 10 overdraw on a G harp is no real problem, but to do it on a C harp, it's hard. The reason I teach you on a C harp is because until you start bending and overblowing, all of the notes built into the harmonica are white notes on the keyboard, and therefore a lot easier to wrap your mind around the theory. But tonally, I enjoy working on lower pitched harps much more, like a G or an A flat or an A, and even a B flat. I love B flats. By the way, there are some people who can take 10 overdraw and bend an overdraw up to, from C sharp up to D, so you could get the full octave. I can do that on lower overblows like 4, 5, and 6, but I can't do it on 10 overdraw. And part of this is because I haven't practiced, and part of it is because it's hard. So in any case, yeah, it's some tough stuff going on, especially for your bends. 10 single bend, man, that's a bear. It's hard to do. Again, I have a much easier time doing this stuff on a lower pitched harmonica. So, but if you have your bends and overblows together, you can do some real nice stuff in D major on a C harmonica or third position on any harmonica. So let's look at the whole scale. If you'll notice, there's only a few overblows. 5 overblow, 7 overdraw, and 10 overdraw. And that's good news. It means that you can do some real nice things with D major or third position on a C harp or on any harp respectively. But those overblows, especially the F sharp and the C sharp in the middle of the harmonica, those are pretty important overblows. F sharp is the third note in the key of D, and C sharp is the seventh note. The third and the seventh note tend to be the most indicative of the personality of the scale, the feeling of the scale. So it's a real shame that those notes are the ones that are missing until you learn how to overblow. So I'm going to start on one draw. I'm going to go up to 10 overdraw, and you'll hear it'll be squeaky as heck. And then I'm going to come down to one draw, and then I'm going to bend on one down my C sharp, and then return to D, one draw. I'm going to tongue articulate the bends, and I'm going to tongue articulate, when ascending, the notes that follow the bends that are in the same hole as the bend I just played. Okay, not bad. So, I'm going to set up my backing tracks, and we're going to jam along to the same progression we did for C and G major, where it's the 1 chord for 2 bars, the 4 chord for 2 bars, the 1 chord for 2 bars, the 5 chord for 2 bars, the 1 chord for 4 bars. You know what? I'm totally spacing out. I'm going to start over. The 1 chord for 2 bars, the 4 chord for 2 bars, the 1 chord for 2, the 5 chord for 2, the 1 chord for 2, the 4 chord for 2, and then alternating between the 1 chord, the 5 chord, the 1 chord, and the 5 chord, 1 bar each. Now in the key of D, what does this mean? What is the 1 chord, what is the 4 chord, and what is the 5 chord? Well, you have to look at the D major scale. For the 1 chord, you look at the first note in the D major scale, D. So when I play a D chord, it's not just the note D. There are 3 or more notes going on in that D chord. Okay? In this one, it's a 3-note chord, a major chord, and we'll talk more about that later. So when we say the 1 chord in the key of D, we mean a D chord. For the 4 chord, look at the D major scale. What's the 4th note? D, E, F sharp, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. G is the name of the 4 chord. What's the 5 chord? D, E, F sharp, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A is the 5 chord. So this progression is going to go D for 2 bars, G for 2 bars, D for 2 bars, A for 2 bars, D for 2 bars, G for 2 bars, and then alternating 1 bar each, D, A, D, A. Now, to think of this scale as a harmonica player might, instead of a theory musician, and say, what holes are going to work? Are there any blow notes that are not a part of the D major scale? Well, without bending, the blow notes are C, E, G. There is no C in the D major scale. So you need to avoid 1 blow, 4 blow, 7 blow, and 10 blow. There's an E in the scale, and there's a G in the scale. So you're good. Even though we didn't write 3 blow down, 2 draw is G and 3 blow is G, they're the same note. You can play 3 blow. For the draw notes, are there any draw notes without bending that are not in this scale? The draw notes are D, G, B, D, F. There is no F in this scale. 5 draw and 9 draw. You need to avoid them. A is 6 draw. B, D, F. There's 9 draw again. Avoid it. A. So you need to avoid 5 draw and 9 draw, and on the blow notes, 1, 4, 7, and 10 blow. What bent notes do you have? 2 single, 3 double, 9 single, 10 single. What overblows do you have? 5 overblow, 7 overdraw, 10 overdraw. It's starting to get a little complex. Okay? Here I go. some blow notes. More draw notes. Interspersing blow notes and draw notes. Bringing in some bent notes. Oh, I forgot. One bend is part of this scale too, and 4 bend. When I listed the bends, I forgot about them. Bringing in the overdraws and the overblows. Right at the end there, I threw in a 6 bend, which is not in the scale. I don't know if you caught it, and personally I thought it sounded just fine. And it's a good thing to think about, is that, you know, these scales, they're rules that are made to be broken. Okay, it's not like you can't play other notes. You can play any note you want at any time. And you just got to use your ear and say, okay, I'm going to play a note that's not in the scale. It's a risk. Do I like it? Do I not like it? If I like it, I hang on it. If I don't like it, I get away. You know? And so next time we're going to get into some real deep stuff. We're going to start talking about modes, and I'll see you soon. Stop.